Newly promoted teams are changing up their strategy and starting to buy younger, starting to buy players who have more upside. And some could see this as a risky strategy, but we're going to discuss whether that's the case, whether this has some real legs to it, and whether teams are going to start continuing to do this. But starting off, we're going to talk about Coventry's big money young signing this summer, and that is Caleb Yirenkyi. Spencer, let's speak on him first.
Yeah, this is a really exciting one. I'm kind of surprised with the move. It seemed like it came pretty out of the blue. They kept it under wraps, so that's hats off to them for doing that. But he's a really exciting player. Obviously, people saw him in the Premier League, but he's just an all action, do everything, just crazy engine kind of a midfielder. Some of the stuff that stands out, at least in his data profile, is he's a dual winner. He's really good in the air, which is something that'll translate. I mean, he's in Denmark, so there is going to be a step up to the Premier League. But the signs would be there that, I mean, given the ball carrying ability that he has, everything that I can see is on the physical side, and obviously when you watch him, he would be one that could make that leap up. He's also a really accurate passer. The team that he plays for now, I believe they're one of the best in the Danish league. If you look at the way that his data is, he goes short and laterally very often, so that then when he progresses or makes long passes, he's a lot more accurate. But that's the case across a lot of players on the team, so I'm not sure if that's really him or if that's just the setup where they play a lot of short passes and then teams come in and then the long receivers are more open, so the passes are there. But regardless, there's really a lot to like. I looked at I ran a filter to see who are his most comparable like midfielders and just like throughout the past 8 years in top five leagues, and it's just some of the dudes with the biggest engines. Anguissa, Fofana, Thomas Partey, Declan Rice, like some of the names of like some of the strongest midfielders have the same data as him. So yeah, he's a really exciting one. It's kind of a risk for Coventry, but also not because he's one that I think he's going to translate really well. So yeah, it's all around really exciting for them.
Yeah, I think just on your point in terms of the style of Nordirland, who are obviously they have the Right to Dream Academy. It's like their pathway into first team football, which is an academy that mainly focuses in Africa, although they're expanding. But they use Nordirland as like a pipeline through the into first team football, right? And so their ethos in terms of style of play is very measured, very control heavy. So I think that could tell a story in terms of the data. But him almost looked like men against boys at times last season when you watch him. Like, that Spanish tradition where they try and jump on the ball and the ball just like shakes them off. That's exactly what it looks like sometimes when you're watching him. Like he has the ball, he's driving. People try to even just engage, and he just like moves them out the way, shifts them out the way with ease. Um, the way I see him long term, if he's going to really reach his peak and his potential, I see him probably more as a number eight. And we've talked about this on the channel before that I think you want in the modern game your deepest midfielder to be able to play progressive passes, really, and ball progress. And I think you probably want your engines and your carriers and your good dual winners slightly further forward if you are one of the top teams. But I think in Coventry's system, where they're going to be obviously not controlling games as much, being a newly promoted team, I think I like him in the deeper areas, in the six role, the DM role, because I think he can cover ground so well laterally. So any transitions, he's going to be good at eating those up. But also just his dueling capability. Anything that goes into his zone, I think he can win really well. And then either drive on the counter attack, which is going to be really important again for a newly promoted team, or lay it off to maybe more creative passer teammates. So I think I do like him as a deeper midfielder for Coventry, but probably long term I see him more as a number eight.
The next player we're going to talk about is Lucas Herrington, which, if you look at the whole city owner's tweets about where he lists all of their targets with the flags and stuff, that Australian has 100% next to it now. So we're pretty sure that this is going to be happening. He's a really fascinating player. He was playing in Australia at this time last year, moved to Colorado Rapids in the MLS. I want to say for like less than £1 million. It was like a really low transfer fee, but really high upside. They obviously Brisbane Roar had a sell-on fee, so they're going to make a lot of money on this deal too. But yeah, he already had people in England and across the continent tracking him even before he played a match in the MLS. The kind of player that he is, he's real tall, kind of lanky center back. Really more of a not super front-footed. which kind of makes sense given his frame. He's not the quickest laterally. He got long legs, and it's almost just like it's like a longer connection time between brain and feet. It's not real, but like it just feels like there's like just a little bit less time. But he's really, really good in the air, especially for his size. He's really accurate, sort of a passer. Colorado Rapids is a team where they have really sort of controlled possession and really, I think it seems like more set sequences than a lot of teams do. So he's in an environment where the option to where he would pass is often fairly open and pretty well defined, and he's very accurate when he does so. So he's one that, I mean, he's only 18 or 19. I think he's 18 years old, and he's already moving to the Premier League. I'm super excited about it from just like an MLS perspective. I thought he was due for a move probably next summer, but I guess it happened sooner. He's going to be one where if Hull goes down, somebody is going to buy him right back up. Even if he doesn't light the world on fire, he's going to still have, because he's so young, and the attributes that he has with like the size and his passing range and his ability to win in the air, he's going to be one that he's going to spend multiple years in the Premier League. He's not going to go back down to the Championship, I don't think, unless he, like, God forbid, gets injured or something. So yeah, it's a really good move for them. It's going to help their chances of staying up, I think, because he's probably better than a lot of the options that they have now. And he's also going to provide future sell-on value. If they go down, they can sell him likely for more than they're paying for him now. I mean, it's just for them, it's just a really good move.
Yeah, and I think what you said about his body type, I think that'll be interesting because, like you said, I think he suits at the moment more passive style of defending. Because anytime I think he will engage with a Premier League striker, if he's going to engage very tight, I think that could be a problem because of the physicality of most Premier League strikers being able to roll him. But I think in terms of winning in the air, that's going to be massive. Just over, the Premier League is such small margins in every game. Set pieces are so important. Winning that last header in the last minute to get yourself a draw rather than a loss at a big team. All those kind of things I think really add up, and having a really good aerial threat is massive. And then on the ball, I think I'd imagine most teams now still want to try and play out, especially initially in the Premier League, and him being so calm and composed on the ball is going to be huge in that. And I really hope that, a couple errors that could happen don't kind of stop him being so calm on the ball, because he is really like graceful in terms of how he plays out from the back. But like you said, I think this is one of them that Hull maybe don't know or don't definitely think he's ready straight away, but they want to get in first so that they're always going to make profit on this guy, right? He's 18. He's a very talented centre-back. When he grows into his body, when he gets more stature, there's going to be money to be made regardless if Hull stay up or go down. So I think they've kind of just jumped the gun, and it's a smart signing.
The third player that we're going to be talking about is Emersonn from Toulouse, which of course signed. It was earlier in the transfer window, so it's probably gone a bit under the radar with all of the recent news, but he's signed with Ipswich. And he's a really, really interesting striker, center forward. Really, really big target man, link play, and he gets off a lot of shots, but he doesn't really get a ton of really good chances. He's not very accurate. I'm pretty sure he's well under his XG in terms of actual goals realized. So there is a lot of refinement to be done with the final parts of his game, but he's really physical in terms of durability and being able to like hold the ball and hold up in possession. He's an outlet. He receives a ton of long balls. He wins in the air. And he also is really involved around the penalty area, which kind of, it makes sense where he doesn't get like a ton of fantastic shots and he gets a lot more shots because he doesn't just go into like the 6-yard box and wait. He's not more of like a positioning, sort of finishing the moves. He's more of a get involved everywhere around the box. So that's the kind of player that he is. He's really good. I thought he was, Alvaro Rodriguez was my favorite of this general archetype coming up through, but I would have probably rated him second. I know Kish has a really good comparison for him. That's, for me, it's complimentary. For some people, it may not be. But I think for him and for Ipswich, the other two that we've talked about, they're young enough and there's still a lot of development that they'll need to do, but they're definitely ones that I think will, if the teams go down, they will stay up. Emersonn is one where I could see Ipswich keeps him and he's still good in the championship and he would stay with them in the championship and he can contribute there and help them go back up. Because I think even though he is 21 and the others I think are younger than him, I think he has the most growing still to do, but that's because a striker, the final things that they do needs like a ton of refinement for them to really hit their ceiling. So I think he's one, unlike the other two, where the other two are 1 year loans where they're going to make profit, or they're going to stay with the team because they stayed in the Premier League. I think Emersonn is probably going to stay with Ipswich even if they go down. So for that reason, he's different, but also pretty good for them.
Yeah, so the comparison that Spencer and me discussed before recording was that he reminds me a bit of Beto. And I mean this in the best way possible because, you know, if you watched Beto and you saw a 20-year-old or a 21-year-old, you'd be like, there's a lot to work with here. And if we can refine this and we can nurture this, then you have a very good striker. The issue with Beto is obviously that he's old and he's not going to improve on those weaknesses. But the thing I like about Emersonn a lot is he competes. He just competes. And like I said earlier, in terms of the fine margins of the Premier League, like to just relieve pressure is going to be massive. The fact that he'll consistently run channels, but the ball will stick and he will be a nuisance for centre-backs. And I think when you're a newly promoted team, again, these things are really important, right? To relieve pressure when you're penned in, to be able to get up the pitch is even a massive thing. And I think he'll be massively helpful in that. His ball striking is scruffy. He is a nuisance, so I do think he gets chances just through his sheer physicality and stuff. But his ball striking is just inconsistent at the moment, and those are things that come with experience and refinement and repetition. So I wouldn't say that's like a forever thing, you know. But I agree with you. I think he's someone that needs work, but there's a good base there that suits the Premier League, that suits a newly promoted team, suits what they want to do. And so I think, again, a very smart signing. If you are enjoying this content, guys, please do make sure you subscribe. We've got so much more coming along this kind of topic and other topics. So make sure you do click that button, please. But Spencer, please tell us why you think clubs are opting for this strategy more now, whereas before maybe they would go for a lot more risk-free, Premier League proven, senior pros.
Yeah, so it's not that the self-preservation strategy doesn't work still. It worked for Leeds if you saw what they did. It wasn't necessarily like Premier League proven, but it was like lower value, like undervalued players aged 24 to 26 that are super physical. And it's like our intention is we're not going to like win a bunch of money on these players, but we're going to stay up. And that does work, and it's worked for them. But I think you saw with what Sunderland did with all of the young signings that they had. Obviously, they signed like Granit Xhaka for some experience, but Bravi was 23, Habib Diarra, Chesmian Talbi, Simon Adingra. I'm definitely missing some because there were so many.
Roofs.
Robin Roof's probably the most profitable one for them in the long run. They signed a bunch of young talent with the idea, I think, that, hey, if we go back down again, the parachute payments are going to be enough to sustain. While we have the money, let's invest it in youth and plan for the next 5 or so years rather than planning for just this 1 year to stay. Because now, like, the parachute money versus being in the Premier League, it's not so... The money difference isn't so crazy, especially for teams that would have just been recently relegated. So they're planning for the future with this new capital injection. And I think all three teams do, I mean, to the degree that we're talking about 3 more than 20 million euro signings for U23 players for both of these, for all 3 of the newly promoted teams, kind of points to that. That's sort of the new theme, is that, hey, we wouldn't be able to sign or access this sort of a potential of a player beforehand without the Premier League and without the status of the Premier League and without the money that the Premier League provides. If we go back down, the parachute money will help us stay into a position where we'll be able to compete and go back up. But we need to make these investments that will keep us in the Premier League for the very long term, rather than just like, let's get in the Premier League and let's stick and stay in the Premier League now.